Hey guys, how's it going today? So I'm going to do a quick video here today on Apple's earnings for Q2 2018. I'm specifically just going to go through their financials real quickly, and I'm going to make some comments and give you maybe a little bit of additional information that you didn't have that I learned during the conference call. So yet again, I mean, if you want to watch my last video for the last quarter that they reported, I was very bullish on the company again, and turns out we have another, amazing quarter for Apple. I'll put a link to my last video in the top right corner right now, and then you can kind of compare some of the things that I was saying, and you can see how they've just continued to accelerate more as well. I didn't really have that high of expectations for this quarter, but we had, this quarter, 3 months, 60 over $61 billion. Again, that compares to last year, which was 52. Everything is just been going up greatly. I mean, our EPS is increasing significantly. Of course, they're buying back a lot of shares, but it's always a good thing. I'm not going to go through too much about their, balance sheet or cash flow. You guys can look into this if you want, and make a comment down below if you would like me to do videos on how to read these types of things. But there was just some interesting things that I found in here. When you go down a little bit further, they always break down the geographic segments, and they also break down products. And I wasn't really expecting to see a heck of a lot of growth, because there's not a lot of new products that have come out that have been significant other than the iPhone 10, and the AirPods, and the HomePod, but nothing too big. I really think that Apple has more in store for us, especially if you're looking at what they're actually, how much money they're investing and stuff like that. But as you can see here, on every geographic segment, they're up. The big one that people are always worried about is China, and you can see year over year here, it was about 10 billion last year, and now it's 13 billion. So that's accelerating. Every Japan, the rest of Pacific, Americas, it's up everywhere, which is phenomenal. I mean, any company would be just ecstatic for this and this kind of growth. It's still this kind of growth is just continued. I mean, it's kind of amazing to me, and that's kind of been one of the reasons that people have been kind of bearish on the stock and saying, well, it can't go up forever, it can't keep growing forever, sort of thing. But they continue to grow, and I really do believe they have a lot of room to grow, and they're going to basically transition into different products, which is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And again, as you can see, the iPhone, I mean, they're generating more revenue, 33 billion versus 38. People are always worried about that. Another thing that hasn't changed much lately is the iPod, but that's even slightly up. The Mac, which is something that we know that Apple's just not focusing on. They're gravitating away from that. They don't want to be in the personal computers. They want it to be kind of ubiquitous with their iPhones and stuff like that. Even that's slightly up, which is good. And of course, the big one being services, guys. That's what's going to be huge for Apple, especially with their installed base. It's over $9 billion now in a quarter. I mean, any company would just salivate for that. 9 billion versus last year it was 7 billion. So that's just huge. So listening to the conference call though here, as I said, 61.1 billion. That's 16% since last year. I mean, and these are in times when people are thinking, well, how much can they grow? Go watch my last video again. They were up last quarter from the previous year, significant as well. iPhone revenue up 14%, as I showed you guys on the financials, and I showed you on the financials as well. Services up 31%, which is $9 billion. So that's $2 billion more than last year. Like, that's just crazy when you think about that for a company, and a company that people are afraid that might not grow. In 1 year, just in one of their segments, they're up $2 billion. I mean, any company would just love that. I mean, if you look at my last video, it was 8.5 billion. So within 3 months, they've increased it by a little over $500 million just in their services in 3 months. That's insane. And for people that are, worried about, the iPhone, I think eventually we're going to reach quite a bit of saturation. And I think they're going to continue to, gain ground in China and stuff with the iPhone. But, never underestimate Apple. I mean, in the past, iPod was like 60-70% of the revenue. And now we've seen, again, wearables up almost 50% since last year. So the watch, which, is, arguably people thought wouldn't do very well. We're seeing double-digit growth there. And part of Beats or wearables is also Beats and AirPod, right? So these are just small segments, but you can see how much it's actually growing. Again, 20% growth in China. That's just in general. And I found that this was very, very interesting, actually. So he's saying for the first time ever, the most expensive iPhone has become the most popular. And so that's something that's very significant for a company, especially for Apple, um, for their ASPs or their average selling price. I can see that definitely going up. And I've heard some other YouTubers and stuff talk about that as well. That iPhones are going to, iPhones or phones in general are getting more expensive. You see even the cheaper ones, the Samsung ones or whatever, they're diving more into the high end, more premium, and people are gravitating towards that. And, Apple's not any different. So for the first time ever, I mean, when the 6 and the 6S came out, the 6S wasn't as popular. I mean, it was popular, but it wasn't necessarily the most popular. So this is going to be a huge driver for more iPhone revenue and profitability. HomePod, not much was said, but of course they were kind of, late to the game. It's a very good speaker, apparently, but, I think this is going to be something that's going to be lumped within here. They didn't specifically say within the conference call, but I think it will. But, I mean, they should always be releasing new products and stuff. And a huge thing for shareholders, which is always great to hear, $100 billion more. I'm not too sure if their last capital return program has expired, but that was around 300 billion. Now they're announcing another 100 billion because they just got so much cash, right? And dividend, which is awesome, up 16%. So those are just the basic things that I found when I was listening to their conference call. Their financials are amazing as well, but we've seen the stock actually, go up quite a bit since then. And one of the biggest reasons, it seems like, the only thing that drives stocks nowadays is news. And arguably the best investor of all time is just loves Apple. And if you guys didn't hear, he revealed to CNBC that he bought another 75 million shares of Apple during last quarter. So, he owns, it says here around, I haven't looked at his filings personally, but about 165 million shares, by the end of 2017. So I believe now he owns about 6%. And he's being quite a proponent, saying, he loves Apple. It's kind of funny coming from a guy who said he never wanted to own the tech stock because he doesn't understand them like Apple. But he said he'd love to own 100% of it. And basically, if you read this article here, when this interview with Buffett, he was saying that he just loves the fact that they're buying so much. He owns 5% roughly of the company right now, and he said by next year he might own 6%, even if he doesn't, add anymore. But I know that he will be adding more. Sorry. But what's not to like? I mean, that's what's so amazing about this company is that it's got a PE. I'm not too sure about what it's at right now, but around 15 to 17. It's just laughable how cheap the company is. So I would expect it to hit $200 a share. But you never know what kind of negative news can bring it down or anything like that. But the company is just phenomenal. And I'm so excited to hear what they're going to do in the future, to see what they're going to do in the future. And having Buffett behind it is really helping. And I think it's going to give the stock some solid support to continue higher. Anyway, that was just a quick video on some information regarding what's happening with Apple lately. If you guys got any questions, I'd love if you guys leave comments down below. Tell me what you think, and tell me what your opinion is. Maybe specifically on the capital return program, because some people think that that $100 billion or so they could use to buy something else. Personally, I do actually think that they should do that, just because I am an Apple shareholder and I know that those types of news stories and whatnot are going to drive the stock higher. But Apple is very strategic. They only use their money and utilize their money for things that they find are most important. But I would like to see definitely them get into the streaming services, and I have a video more on that because their Apple TV and that ecosystem is so amazing. Anyway, that's going to be it for today, guys. I will talk to you in the next one.